makers, I am Becca and welcome to your DIY dice tutorial. So for this tutorial, I'm basically going to be telling you materials and giving you some guidelines and less of a step-by-step kind of process. So in case you don't know what I'm talking about, here's the dice that I have made. It is a 6-sided dice. This is a 6-sided dice tutorial. I have not yet figured out how to make any other kind of sided dice. Once I do, you can bet your bottom dollar I'll be making a tutorial. So there's a couple of ways, or a couple of things you can use for the middle part of this dice. Now, for this very first one, I actually found an almost perfect cube piece of foam that I then cut up pieces of breakfast cereal boxes, and then I glued it to each side because what I didn't, I wanted it to kind of protect the foam. But that's a little tedious for a lot of people, so I'm going to give you some other perfectly easy things that you can do. So the first one is a Kleenex box. Now, it probably is best that you don't open it so that you don't have to contend with this hole. But if you get one that's like this, it is approximately 4 1/4 inches. Like, this is a perfect square. And then the height is 5 inches. So it's not a perfect cube by any stretch of the definition, but it's really close. The other option you have is this stuff. This is floral foam. You can get it at most craft stores, and this one I actually got from the Dollar Tree. Now again, based on the dimensions, it's basically 3 inches, and then it's longer, it's closer to 4 inches. But the great thing about this is if you have a serrated cutting utensil, then all you have to do is say, okay, make my first cut this way, and then, figure out where your next cut has to be, and then bada bing, bada boom, you have a cube. Once you decide what your cube is going to be, that's going to determine the rest of the things that you do. Now, obviously, the smaller the cube, the less the weight of your yarn matters. But for bigger cubes, I definitely would suggest either a heavier 3-weight, a 4-weight, and maybe even a bulky 5. Anything bigger than that might be a little bit too cumbersome. So for example, I did a Tunisian knit stitch for this cube, and I believe I cast on 16 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. So, and again, you can kind of tell that this is not a perfect cube, guys. Be kind to my dice. But once you know roughly about the size of, the closer you get to an actual perfect cube, the more you can make each side of your dice the same size. So for example, my very first one, which was almost a perfect cube, each square that I made was exactly 5 inches. Which leads me to the next subject, which is construction. Now, there are 2 ways to do this. You can individually make each square, make the dots, which I will address in just a minute, and then sew them on together. Or you can make it all one flat piece. When you make it all one flat piece, once you're done, if you outline it in black like I did, this is roughly what it should look like without the dots. Okay? And what I would recommend, again, is however you make the dots, once you've made all the dots that you need, well, hold on, let me do some quick math. 21 dots. Once you've made all 21 dots, you can sew them on and then sew it together. I would recommend doing that if you're doing single squares or if you're doing flat. Now, for those of you who don't know, the dots on a dice are not random. Whatever is opposite of whatever number you've rolled plus the number you've rolled adds up to 7. So for example, in case that was confusing, I'm gonna show you. So here's a 6. Opposite of 6 is 1. Here is 5. Opposite of 5 is 2. Here's 3. Opposite of 3 is 4. So, for example, I'm going to show it on here. And of course, so if 1 is your bottom, then 6 is your top. And then once you decide where you put one number, that dictates you where you put another number. So if I put 2 over here, 5's over here. And then you've got 3 and 4. And that's how I ended up with 21, because you've got 3 sets of 7. Now, I'm going to talk about something that I normally don't talk about, which is color choice. Depending on what... Did I get it? I got it. Sorry about that, guys. Depending on what you want your overall aesthetic to be, I would highly suggest that the background color be a solid or a long variegated, like the itty bitty stripes, or even like a mandala. They don't even have to be all the same color. Just a bright colored color so that the black shows up. Unless you're doing an inverse dice, which if you are, God bless you. That means the whole thing basically is black, and then you've got light colored dots, usually white. What else can I tell you about this dice? So the reason I outlined mine in black is so that it would be easier for me to see where I started and where I ended, especially since I was doing a Tunisian knit stitch. You don't have to have those, but if you don't have those, I highly suggest stitch markers. You can single crochet the pieces together up to a point, and then you kind of have to know either how to whip stitch or how to sew, which I can do separate tutorials on whip stitch or just sewing this thing together if you would like. And then let's see, I've talked about gauge, I've talked about color, I've talked about construction, I've talked about content. Oh, I've talked about the content of what's inside, not the content of what's outside. If this is going to be played with outdoors, one of the things you might want to do is instead of sewing the top, you might want to get a long zipper and do it like a zipper pillowcase. And if that's the case, I definitely recommend your yarn to be acrylic and not cotton. And there's a reason for that. If you guys don't know, cotton has a tendency to stretch. Even if you wash it and dry it right away, it will stretch. So I definitely recommend an acrylic. If you want it to keep it looking nice for a long period of time, I definitely recommend an anti-pilling acrylic. There are plenty out there, so I'm not going to name drop. If it's going to be played with indoors, fiber content doesn't matter as much. I know somebody who made theirs out of wool and then felted it. So you have all sorts of options when it comes to making your own dice. As far as stitches, again, how big your dice is going to dictate, as far as crochet goes, what kind of stitch you use. I definitely recommend something that's a smaller stitch, like a single crochet, an extended single crochet, maybe even a half double crochet, especially if you get something that's a piece of foam, so that you don't have to worry about as much stuff falling out. But if you make this a true amigurumi and you're actually putting polyfill inside, you can do that. I just recommend worsted weight at least. Number 1, going down a hook size. Number 2, making sure you check gauge. Number 3, and maybe reinforcing with, again, pieces of cardboard, which, you know, cereal boxes, or even parcels that arrive in the mail, or via other ways. Hint. Trying to think if there's anything else I need to tell you all. I think that's it. So I hope this was an appreciated form where it's less step by step, so that you could do it whether you're knitting, crocheting, or Tunisian knitting or Tunisian crocheting. By the way, you can probably, I have not tried the Tunisian simple stitch with this. I'm not sure what that would do, because the texture on that is a little different. Might be worth a little experimentation once I clear my plate a little bit of all the things that I need to make. And I didn't get that piece of food, did I? I'm so sorry. I need to start brushing my teeth before this segment. I really do. I think that's it. Yeah, we're at 15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and say, if you liked this video, despite something being stuck in my teeth, make sure you like the video, especially if you're subscribed and you want to stay subscribed. That way the evil YouTube overlords don't unsubscribe you from my channel against your will. Feel free to comment down below, even if it's just you gross brush your teeth. It helps my analytics. If you're not subscribed yet, I promise I'll brush my teeth. But I have a lot of yarning content, and if that's your job, make sure you hit subscribe and the notification bell. And if you really want to help this channel grow, share this video with everyone you know. In the meantime, make what makes you merry. Ciao.